everyone. Thank you for sparing your time today. So I'm Ella Stewart. I work in the UK&I organisation. I support our Certified System Integrators. And so today's webinar is going to be an hour where we're going to talk about concept to commissioning. So the value of transparency, communication within the many stakeholders that a project encounters, the difference that can be made from a mock-up, and how controls and systems can transform the offering. So hopefully you'll gain some insight there. And I'm just going to quickly take you through a little bit about Signify, which you may already know, but maybe there'll be a few nuggets here that you don't. So, okay. So you may have seen or heard this statement before, but Signify is here, being put into the world to do more than just light your office or put a lamp in your home, but we have a passion to try and change lives through the possibilities of the technology within light and that LED can bring us. And of course, we are still the #1 global leader, and we have 28,000 people on the ground. So the purpose is to unlock the extraordinary potential of light and brighter lives in the world. So that is what I was mentioning. Okay. These are our top line brands. So you may have encountered these before as you've come across Signify. So you can see there's a massive span of brands across loads of different specialities and applications. Takes you from controls projects all the way to architectural lighting, which you'll hear a little bit about from our guest speaker. And then now, so to our core, which is sustainability. So you may recognize this Formula One car on the picture. So we are the official partners for Mercedes-AMG Petronas. And this is, of course, an unsustainable sport as it seems, but we are able to come in and support them on their road to net zero strategy. So hopefully we can turn things around and help them in that. And we do have some more accolades that we're very proud of within the sustainability topic. So these awards here, so they're not only for the energy efficient portfolio that we have, but also how we operate as a company. So we've been in the Dow Jones Sustainability World Index since our IPO for 7 consecutive years. And of course, as you see there, the EcoVadis Platinum rating for 4 years, which is placing us in the top 1% of companies assessed, which is a really big deal for us and we're really proud of, and we hope to continue that in the years going forward. And finally, before I hand over to my wonderful friend and customer, probably the most important slide for me here, which is this one you see here. So we are a partnership company. So partnerships for us, they form the core of our go-to-market strategy. So we're refocusing on developing our network in specification, in certified system integrators, like our guest speaker, as well as other FM, wholesale, contractor, installer partners. But we really recognise the importance of the complete ecosystem. So bringing together additional support and value that these guys can bring us. And so, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Neil Gamble of Architainment Lighting. I have had the pleasure of working with Neil for over 10 years now, and the development of our partnership over these years have only grown and strengthened. And I will say we sometimes take difficult feedback, which is always good. But in return, they deliver us some pretty awesome projects. So it's a price worth paying, I say. And smaller, brighter, lighter. So without further ado, I'd love to hand over to Neil to take our webinar today.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, we've had a couple of hiccups there. Starting with Ella. Ella, thank you for passing over to me. I'll send you the money later for those kind comments. My name's Neil Gamble. I work for Architainment Lighting. We have, as Ella said, been a Signify and prior to that a Colour Kinetics partner for 20 years. We are Architainment. I'll just start again. And we've been working with Colour Kinetics and then Signify for 20 years. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. This is one of our most famous projects. I think you can see on the screen. I think you'll recognize the London Eye. And yeah, that is, we've been lighting that. I think we're getting into the 3rd iteration, all the way from color cast to color grays. And we're hoping to do that again fairly shortly. But just to give you an idea of the size of the projects and the kind of things we do. So I'm Neil Gamble. I'm the sales director at Architainment Lighting. I started in the business lighting industry way back in '95, or in fact a couple of years before that, while I was at university. I worked for Thorn and looked after parts of Africa and parts of the Middle East. And then I moved to Vela Lighting in '98, and they are compact fluorescent down lighting company. And I looked after their international business for quite a few years. And interestingly, their first touch of LED products was with Vela Lighting. There was a color kinetic specification, which I tried to break by creating a copy of a color kinetics product, which it didn't work out. We didn't win the project, and nor did color kinetics. The company that did Supervision, they supplied the products and went bankrupt. So that was back in the day when it was the Wild West in LED terms. And then I moved to color kinetics and spent a good few years with them. Looking after, again, international market, Europe and Middle East. And then in 2008, Signify acquired Color Kinetics, which was probably a very smart move. And I worked with Signify for 18 months after that. But as you can tell from my lack of acronyms, I didn't really get on so well in the big corporate thing. And I moved to EcoSense Lighting in 2009. Which is an offshoot of the Color Kinetics. The guys who created Color Kinetics created EcoSense, so I worked there for some time. And then 10 years ago, I started at Architainment Lighting. And I'll talk a little bit about Architainment now. Both Color Kinetics and EcoSense are being sold by Architainment now, so it was a little bit of history that came with me. We are a relatively small company, small to medium-sized company. We supply architectural lighting into the architectural lighting market. We represent not just Color Kinetics or Signify, but we have a number of brands, and we are known to sell and to support lighting designers with high quality interior, exterior LED products, dynamic, non-dynamic, circadian. And so we're known as a good lighting supplier, a good technical lighting supplier, I would say. Right, I'm going to start off this presentation with this slide. I'm going to come back to it later, but I can see these, in my opinion, are the stakeholders in the architectural lighting market, and it's how we go to market and how we support our lighting designers' projects and how they move forward. And if you look at these people, who on this list is the customer? And I think it's a really interesting question, because we as a company see the lighting designer as our customer, but he doesn't buy anything from us. We don't get a penny from him. We don't give him a penny. We support him in his specification process, and at the end of potentially many years, or hopefully less than that, we end up getting an order, and the order actually would end up coming from an electrical subcontractor or a wholesaler, potentially the client sometimes. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's not a simple deal selling lighting into a large project or a medium project. You have to pick out the right people and sell to them, and then support everybody else. But the bottom line is your customer is the lighting designer, even though he doesn't buy the product. There are some designers that lighting design practices will do design and supply, but it's not that common in the UK. So who are these guys or girls? These are the architectural lighting designer. They are an interesting breed. I like them. There's no doubt about that. They go from creative to technical and everywhere in between. So we meet some very creative guys and we meet some very technical guys, but and we try to support them on the bit they're missing, kind of thing. So if they have a creative idea, we'll try and support them by getting the right product to make that imagination or that lighting design idea come to life using light fixtures and control and programming. So we can be supporting a very creative lighting designer with the technical side, and sometimes we can support a very technical designer with maybe a creative side with creative help, with showing old projects or something to help with the process of how they're going to light the building. But one thing's for sure, they know more than we do. I think that there are a lot of people out there who think they could maybe design a building, and I think I could actually. I reckon I could design a building, a lighting design, and put some lights on it, and it would probably be 70% as good as what a lighting designer. And I'd look at it and think that's okay, but I wouldn't walk past it and go, "Wow, that's fantastic." You just think, "Oh, that's a building." Whereas you can see when a building has been designed properly, it impacts you, and I think it impacts the general public. They might not realize it, but they might just think, "Oh, that's a nice building," and that difference is where they count. So the architectural lighting designer. I just brought this slide in just to talk about briefly how we can help them. So this is Plantation Place in 2003 as a Color Blast product, which is from Color Kinetics. As you can see, 2003, long time ago. And the kind of brief was, yeah, we need it color changing, and we can't get access to the fixtures once they're installed. And back then, there was nothing to do color changing without having access properly to the fixtures. But there was LEDs, and Color Kinetics had an LED to solve that problem. So the lighting designer's vision was, I want to have this incredible color changing moonscape with LEDs, and I can't access the products. So we had a solution, and we had the technical solution to help them with the programming. And that's kind of a good example of how we would support them. And I believe it's still running. So how does that work? How do we work together with lighting designers? Designers will approach us with an initial design idea. I want to light this building. Could be a product idea. They might want to do something special that we can support them with, some metal work or adjust an existing product, work with a manufacturer like Color Kinetics and say, right, we want to tweak this, or we want to have different node spacings or whatever that may be. Or it might be an area to be lit. So it's as simple as this space, and they might come and say, what do you think? Is there anything that can do this that you know of? Or I've had an idea to do it with this. Do you think it will work? Or can you get me a sample? They understand the stuff that we don't understand. They know about effect, color, no color, physical size, smaller, brighter, lighter, output, overall design and intent. And the reason I said smaller, brighter, lighter is because that's our mantra. We don't want big, heavy fixtures. And as LEDs develop, we can have smaller packages with brighter outputs and less energy. And it's something I say to Color Kinetics and Signify a lot. And I will say it again. And that goes back to Ella saying that I've put in some critical input now and again. So lighting designers, they don't necessarily all want to use Color Kinetics. They don't want to use Igazzini. They don't want to use, I don't know, whoever. They choose who they want to help with getting the product and their design in place. So we can't say, right, here, use this. We can say, right, we've got these products. I know you've got a project. What do you think? Here, use this doesn't work, because they are independent lighting designers and they know their own minds, and they will work to get exactly what they want. And we happen to have the right product and it fits, and they like us, which is also important. And we get on and we have history and old projects, then they will use our products. And that means CK, or it may mean another product. So we help with finding that product from our range and supporting with data and information, like IS files, sites, etc. And another thing with the initial interaction with the designers, and make sure you can say no to a designer, and that is a positive thing to say. Don't say yes. Yes, we can do that. Yes. Oh, yes. 100 meters, we can do that. 1,000 meters, no problem. We can plug it in. It'll be all fantastic. If it doesn't work, don't pretend it doesn't work. It works. Be very honest, and the respect gained from saying no is massive, in my opinion. You know, no's a good word, and a lot of salespeople and a lot of companies out there are afraid to say it. But even if you lose that project because you can't do what they want, they will respect your judgment of saying no and come back to you for the next one. So it's all about the long-term gain rather than, oh, I need an order. So say no. And very early in any project, when the designer comes to you, try and establish a budget, because you might have a fantastic job and you think, right, this is perfect for a color reach, 20 color reaches, but they may only have £10,000 or $10,000, or, you know, and you can shut that conversation down very quickly and establish very quickly whether you're wasting your time or whether you should be offering up a different product or a different solution or less of one product. That's also an option. Yes, we haven't got that budget, but if we half the number of luminaires, we can still have a nice effect. Maybe not what you wanted, all singing, all dancing, but you still get an order and a happy designer and the product done within budget. And I just put at the bottom there, big wheels keep on turning, because that's another one of my London Eye shots, and it's a big wheel and it keeps on turning. It's a wonderful job, but that's the last photo you'll see it in this presentation, so enjoy it. So we have the brief. We have to start talking about product and what we're going to offer. So we will offer up fixture suggestions. The Graze Elite, for instance, is a new product from Philips, very nice. We will also give them data sheets, IES files, size, output, efficacy, power. We will offer simple or complicated pixel control, overall project. Does it use DMX? Does it use DALI? We can offer them both of those solutions. We tend to use Pharos, or we use Dynalight for our DALI, and then we combine those two to present the option. So we bring them the product and we bring them the control solution. So they're not left in the dark. And most lighting designers are very good with control, some better than others. But it's very important to make sure they understand that we understand what control is. And when it comes to later in the project and they want to achieve their design intent and goal, we can support that process and back them up. Certainly at Architainment, we have a full department of sales technicians who will go to site and program, and will support them on the cloud, etc., which I'll talk about in a little while. And the best way to show a product to a customer is to take it to them in the hands, put it on their desk, switch it on, show them what they can see, what they can do. And that is the initial stage of mock-ups, and that's where I'll go further into this, and we get to the mock-up stage. So they have an inkling of what they want. We have supplied them with some products that may or may not work. We might be able to give them some different lenses and things like that to make sure that it all works together. And then we go to pretty much the favourite part of my job, apart from talking to Ella, obviously, and Yap. It's an on-site mock-up. And it might be cold, and we're right in the middle of it now in the UK. It's very miserable. It was snowing yesterday. It's wet, and it's dark, and it's horrible. But we still like to go to site, put our jackets on, get the products out, shine them on the building. And unfortunately, we can't do that in the summer, because in the UK, it doesn't get dark till 11 o'clock. So most of our mock-ups happen on cold, miserable winter days. We need to take the product. We need to take a control system which will demonstrate the control. It doesn't mean taking or showing the whole singing and dancing, but it may well be a slider or a simple iPlayer or something like that. And we'll take as many different options as lenses. So if we get to site, then the lighting designer has lots of choice to establish and to pare down and to get to where they need to be. And obviously we need to buy dinner or go to the pub. That's probably the most important part of the mock-up. Sometimes when a project hasn't been built or it's in renovation, we can't get access to the building inside or outside. might be scaffolding. So then we are happy, and you can see from this photo, to build an example of what they're doing. And in this case, you can see it's a wooden structure. You can see at the bottom there's a line of lights there, white, greys, and then a perspex screen, which we've covered in, or the lighting designers instructed us to cover in some sort of diffusing material. And also we've got adjustability in that. So the light fixture goes in there. We bring the lighting designer to come and look at it. And in this case, we ended up taking it to the architect. And what that enabled her to do was establish how good it would look in reality. And this was a very close to reality sort of mock-up. And it's often real size, these sorts of things, and we have people in our company who build this product. They build it. So one of our engineer, he's an engineer, but he's also capable of doing this. So it really works well, and it gives the designer plenty of options to figure out how the project works. This is another example of that, and this is a clock for Hammersmith Town Hall. This is just the initial photo, and you can see in the corner that is the blue face of the clock, and it has a yellow dot, which is the hour mark. And then we have flecks around the outside, which is shining on. And what we're achieving here is we're able to see what the glare off the glass is, and we'll be able to see the direct glare off the fixtures onto the face if you're looking at sideways. So there are 4 faces of this clock. So many different angles to look at it. And the idea was to help the designer to see what the product did in reality against, like a shiny surface. I've put these guys in because they're the contractors who installed it. And I'm going to be talking about contractors in general in a little while. But I like this photo because you saw from my mock-up, and now this is the reality. This is what's happened. So there they are, happy, smiling contractors, and we need to keep them happy and smiling because they are not the enemy. They can support us, and we can support them. And the more we do that, the more the designer gets what he wants, which is, and the client gets what he wants, which is a nice working project. So this is another part of it, of the Hammersmith job, where we painted the backboard, and then we programmed the flex to effectively to follow the time. Obviously, that was a speeded up version, a bit like the time machine. Well, it wasn't speeded up; it's actually real time, but we speeded up the programming to make it do that. So we can have a light following the first hand or the second hand on this, and demonstrate to the client. That's not my head, by the way. That's someone else's head, because I'm not bald. That's someone else's. We programmed this using a Pharos, and part of this was great because we allowed the designer to figure out what animations he wanted to do with this project. So that helps us later. Bearing in mind, I haven't got an order I have an order for this, but we didn't have an order at this stage. We spent quite a lot of money, but it worked very well in the process of smoothing things along. So we allowed the designer and architect to establish how it was going to look 18 months before the project was delivered. So yeah, we still haven't got an order. We might wait another year to get an order still at this late stage, and we've invested this money, but that's what we do to make sure things are right, and that we're gonna have a better chance of winning it. Yeah, that's the time machine. Any references to the time machine? It's quite interesting, because if you do know that reference, you're old like me. There it goes again. So pros and cons of mock-ups. We can see it works. Fantastic. We know we're safe with our technology. We know the lights will go there and it will work. Client can see it works. Even better. They buy into it. Lighting designer can see it works. His idea is now working. So what do you have? You have a happy lighting designer, and he's one would hope anyway. And of course, all of this is like great for selling. But the other side of it is that the after sales, when we're delivering the project, all of these mock-ups and all of this, where we put controllers, where we put power supplies, where the lights go, how it looks, how big the holes are to drill, all comes and saves time later with commissioning and install. And so we front load it, but it saves us later. And the contractor, we'll see these videos and we'll talk to them with it and show them the mock-up, and they get a very good idea how to install and how it all works. So the specification is usually carried out with without interference. What I'm talking about there, so by the time we've got to the stage where maybe a tender's gone out or something like that, and it's so detailed and everything is so clear about what we're going to do, it's very hard for someone who's trying to break the specification and come in and upset everybody to do that, because everybody's on board with it and they don't want to change it because they've seen it works. So my last comment at the bottom there, it costs time, money, no real guarantee at the end. So we choose our projects wisely, and we work with the lighting designers that we like and we're happy with, and that is kind of how we move forward with that. On my desk there, or I hope that's not my desk, it's very messy. It's probably Ella's desk. We've got a product that we've supplied for Hammersmith, and we made that whole thing. So we span out the top, the sort of spinning there at the bottom with the rod and the back plate. We've put an RGB W light fixture, and then we've installed a diffusing thing at the top. There are 850 of those, and they were made from scratch, and we are capable of doing that. The mock-up was very expensive, but we did get the order, so that worked nicely. Sorry, CK. Sorry, guys. So everyone is happy. I'll talk about that in a minute. Specification is written and submitted. Data sheets are issued. Once again, we might wait years now. So we're specified, and then we wait, possibly longer. This is a little job in London we did with Hammersmith Battersea Power Station, and you can see we floodlit this from the bottom. And those really bright rings are actually just spill light from the bottom, so it works beautifully. The reason that CK didn't get this was because they had a very small, very powerful, I'm not going to mention their names, uplighter, a floodlight with a very narrow beam, and that wasn't available from CK because everything was a bit too big for this project. Big works in some projects, but in some it doesn't. So that was fantastic, and we've done a lot of work inside of Battersea as well. I just wondered if any of you can see algae there floating around. Again, that's a reference to people my age. No one under the age of 50 will get it, but I'm putting it in anyway. So the project begins. We get the QS involved again. Talk budgets earlier, and then the QS's contact. They want a quotation. The main contractors want a quotation. The electrical contractors want a quotation. The electrical subcontractors want a quotation. The wholesalers want a quotation. Electrical subcontractors need details, wiring, and control diagrams so that they can figure out how much it's going to cost to install. I'm not a fan of musicals. Just another comment, one of my comments. This is the South Bank Centre, which we just recently lit with Grace Compact, and it looks fantastic. In fact, that's my favourite part of it. Maybe smaller, brighter, lighter came into play here because the Grace Compact is what it says on the tin. It's compact. Thank you, Ella. But I'm not a fan of musicals again, so I don't really like this project. So we need to raise the quotation. Again, that's Oxo Tower, one of our favourites. The mock-up for that was on site and quite complex because it was a listed building, but we sorted it out. So we have to issue, we get drawings of the project. This is when we're right closer to where we're getting this quotation sorted out. So we get drawings maybe, and they might be in PDF, or they might be in CAD, or they might be accurate or non-accurate. So we have to do our best to produce a quotation that is going to be there or thereabouts. We establish the drivers, power supplies, where they're going to be, what sort of control we're going to use. Contractors will hassle us at this point to try and say, oh, we don't need this and we don't need that, or why are we doing that? There's too many this. We stand by our designs. We stand by our lighting designer, whatever comes. And if there is a problem that can't be overcome because of some physical reason, we will take it back to the designer and say, look, we've got this situation. What do? We don't just make the decisions ourselves. We can bring everybody together. We talk to the contractor. We talk to the lighting designer, not so much the QS, or we talk to everybody who's involved with that project. So we create a bill of materials, and we do it as accurately as possible. Issue the quotation to all of the parties that we mentioned earlier, answer a lot of technical questions, and we'll be as accurate as possible, because anything that we say to contractors now is taken through. And if we've missed something, it could be our fault and they'll be coming shouting at us. But hopefully, with the process that I've gone through, we won't have missed anything. So the job is then finally awarded to our friend. You see that friend, the contractor. We saw photos of those guys earlier. Lovely guys, actually from Bulgaria, good chaps. And look what they've done. They've produced a really beautiful clock. And from that mock-up, which was 3 or 4 years ago, we have this now, and it's installed. Everyone's nearly happy. There are some issues where I have to do a bit of dimming, but we haven't finished the commissioning yet. So we're waiting for our designer to come and say, right, now we're going to do the commissioning one dark night soon, and we'll create the effect, and then the effects through the year that we may want to do. And this project will also want to be on the cloud, so that we can do that remotely. We don't have to send engineers to site all of the time. So what do we do to support these fantastic contractors? How am I doing for time? Sort of okay. Price, we don't talk about price. Yes, we do talk about price. Yes, we want it cheaper. Yes, you can have it cheaper, but you won't get as much support as if we give you a little bit, and then we've got margin to do things that will help you if you've forgotten something, if you need us to go to site more often, if something goes wrong the contractor's end, we can support you if you pay us the right money. And that is very true. And if you have a collaborative effort, we support them, and if we've forgotten something, they support us instead of taking us to court and, oh, you haven't done this, haven't done that. Collaborative, massively important. We need to issue all the documentation. We inform them as soon as possible if lead times are too long. We tell people there's no such thing as a bad lead time. It's bad planning. Get the order in early. You're not going to have to pay the invoice until we deliver it. So get it in early. It gives us time to build it. If there's any problems with the delivery, they don't appear on the project because we've got enough time. Give us the order. Massively important. And anyone out there who's scared of asking for an order shouldn't be selling stuff. So yes, again, give them information if something's going to be late. Color Kinetics are never late, so that's okay with them, but there are other companies that might be. So who's buying it? Is it going to be the wholesaler? Is it going to be even the client? Is it going to be the contractor? We have to fill out a ton of crazy circular, whatever, crazy environmental forms. And I know everybody out there is going, oh, what's he talking about? Can't be crazy. But I tell you, those forms, some of them are ridiculous, and nobody knows where their aluminium comes from. Just saying that. At every stage, hold their hand with the control for the contractors. It's a dark art to most contractors, as it is to some other people in this chain. We're there for them. Put their arm around them, not too tight, because that's a bit strange, but we look after them. And then again, later in the project, we don't have troubles. So again, on the back of all of selling lights, well, and I've mentioned it a lot, control is massively important. We have to talk to BMS people. We have standalone controls we can offer. We have control that is linked to weather, time events. We've had air pressure. In fact, we can control anything to do anything, really, especially with Pharos products. Circadian, which is coming. Circadian is 100% coming at us like a freight train right now. I've been looking at lighting for 30 years. I saw the LED thing coming. I didn't predict it, but I lived it. And I think Circadian is the next thing that's going to upset everybody in the market. and we can offer the control to make that happen. And yeah, again, I'm mentioning, why am I always put my arms around contractors? That's not right. Okay. So then we go on to, because I'm running out of time, I have to speed up. Well, look at that. Alexander Palace, isn't that lovely? Oh, fantastic. All product arrives in our warehouse. It mostly gets tested. We do not test Color Kinetics products because we don't need to, because they don't go wrong in our experience. Very, very, very rare. If a Color Kinetics product is not working, it's because the cabling's wrong or the data's wrong. They rarely go wrong. So we actually don't test the Color Kinetics, but other products that we sell that are very different to this, we do test and we send them out so we know they work. We have everything labeled up where it's meant to be on the project, how it all goes together, data sheets, drawings, again, to help supply. We often go to site with the contractor and say when they're installing, and sit with them and say, right, yeah, okay, this is how it goes. And they'll plan it out, but we'll still go and make sure that it goes right. So this is not for them. This is for us. We do this not for the contractor. This is to help the lighting designer get his project over the line, but it's also to reduce the issues that we have later. And however brilliant we are, there is all going to be issues. But our whole mantra is to reduce the number of issues that come up later. So we'll come to site when the designer wants to do his aiming or programming. We definitely are there to do the commissioning and to make the effect that he wants or she wants come to life. And any changes, help with wiring issues. And yeah, we're on the Oki. Again, something that most of you won't understand. Look it up. So it's darts. It's a dart reference, which is very British. So after we're done with all of this, we have, hopefully in a lot of our projects, we have a cloud-based control system so that we can support any changes that people want to do. They can do their own changes. They can learn the system on site. But if they're in trouble or they don't have time, we're happy to take a phone call and change it live. And we do that. And that's part of our service. So, and we're happy to troubleshoot any issues. We don't get very many warranty issues, but you know, how you deal with problems is how you win. If you've got a problem, how you deal with it, you'll get repeat business. If you ignore it and stick your head in the sand, you're done. Forget it. Get on it quickly. And there we go. And then we're ready for the next job. And hi, Sadiq Khan, because that's his office, the Mayor of London. So back to these guys. I mentioned all of these guys. And for anybody to win a project, you have to speak to all of them. You might miss one out. Like, oh, so I just won't talk to quantity surveyor, and you might have realised you've just priced yourself out of the market, or worse, you've undercharged. You might miss the architect who thinks it's a rubbish idea what the lighting designer has done. Unlikely, but it can happen. The end user, the building manager says, I can't use this. This is a silly idea, and he goes off in another direction. The electrical subcontractor, you have to talk to them. So all of these different people are all people that you have to talk to when you want to win a decent project. So really the takeaway is talk to these people, get the mock-up done, always be honest about deliveries, just be honest, and don't try to rip people off. So thank you very much for listening.